Secretary of State Marco Rubio hosting a ministerial conference to address the growing concerns about rising terrorism threats, particularly from the political left. That meeting attended by 60 nations. Joining us to discuss the challenge and the potential solutions is Alvin Lui. He's president at Courage is a Habit, and he's also a strategist. Alvin, thanks for joining us. For those not too familiar with this threat, can you explain why Secretary Rubio felt the need to host the conference?
Well, absolutely. It's good to see you again. We all know that all the violence in America and beyond comes from the left. And the way we do this test here is if you go down to any blue city, would you feel more comfortable putting a Trump sticker or putting a Kamala Harris sticker? You know where the violence is coming from. So he had to address that. And I thought he did a great job. The speech was absolutely amazing. He hit everything right on the nose, and he didn't, mince words. He didn't pull back. He wasn't politically correct. He was great. And everything that they're talking about is very, very necessary because of all the violence over the last 20 years from the left. However, what we have to understand as Americans is that he's talking about violence, or when you're seeing them as an adults, but they're being homegrown in our children in government K through 12. And that is where they're developing all these Marxists and socialists and Antifa. They're making them out of our children using our tax dollars.
Wow, that is alarming the way you describe it there. Now, the secretary suggested that for years there was this double standard, that if you're, as you point out with the sticker analogy, if your cause was from the political left, that somehow extremism and even violence were acceptable or even justified and written off as such. So I want to get your thoughts on that, maybe some examples that you may have in mind.
So this kind of training comes in government K through 12 called restorative justice. And that teaches children that a crime, when it was a crime's committed, or in the school's case, some kind of violence, some kind of attack, some kind of bullying, the punishment has to depend on what color skin you are and where you're coming from. So, for example, when most adults were going to school, there was basically, if you're violent, you get suspended, and it happens again, you get expelled. Today, they're teaching kids, well, why did he do it? Is it because America's oppressive? Is it racist? They teach kids things like words are violence. And so one of the examples that Secretary Rubio gave is when a white terrorist plants a bomb is terrorism. But if it's done by the left, it's because they're fighting against oppression and racism. If it's done by a trans person, it's because they're being oppressed and being erased because we don't accept transgenderism. Is that type of idea. Now, where does that idea come from? They didn't just pop into someone's head when they're 25 or 30. It popped into their minds when they're 5, not 25. And the reason why we all miss it is because it comes in under be kind, inclusive, welcoming schools, social emotional learning, mental health, that kind of thing, empathy. And so when an illegal alien kills somebody, they go, well, Americans, they commit crimes too. And they brush it aside. And so those are some examples that he was talking about.
Yeah, you bring up some of these kind of Orwellian themes about the language actually shifting and what it's actually meaning from the definition of the word. I want to play this clip from the Secretary's conference. He points to a connection of leftist political violence to foreign adversaries. Let's play that.
Antifa militants and their comrades travel from across Europe and to the Americas to participate in each other's attacks, to funnel propaganda and training materials, and they work alongside hostile foreign states that share their mission, like Iranian proxy networks, who are increasingly intimately tied to leftist militant groups around the world. The Cuban regime's sprawling intelligence and ideological network helped to build the far left in our country and in our hemisphere.
I'd like to get your reaction to that the things that we're seeing on the streets in our cities here have a connection to foreign adversaries.
Absolutely. And the reason why the left always seems to be in such lockstep and that they don't step outside their mission at all is because whether you're talking about America, Australia, or Canada, or the UK, or anywhere in the West, the one North Star that they all have is communism. So it doesn't really matter what happens in our particular respective countries. Their goal is always communism and is always to tear down. So because of that, what he's saying is possible because it doesn't matter if you're raising money in Australia and then doing terrorism in California, or you're raising money in California and doing terrorism in the UK, because the goal is always the same. And I always describe communism as a really bad matchup for normal, everyday people, because normal, everyday people just want to take care of their own family, their own business, and their own communities, and then if you leave me alone, I leave you alone. And that sentiment might be good if you live in a high trust society and you're not under attack, but it doesn't work. That sentiment doesn't work when you're dealing with communism, because the second a communist foot hits the floor in the morning, he's all about infringing on you, and a good person's always about compromise. And that's why it's such a bad matchup.
I see how that sort of exploits that gap and that opening. So with the secretary shining a light on this and gathering 60 of his colleagues in various countries, obviously Secretary of War Hegseth is constantly meeting with his colleagues in other countries. But do you see this gathering in D.C. by Secretary Rubio on this topic? Is this potentially a turning point? Is it a watershed moment?
I think so. I mean, I think also it is credit to him, because he's got the personality and the courage and the heart to do that. And it takes somebody to drive everybody towards being more offensive. And the one I really love about him is that he's very offensive minded. This is something we talk about. Our courage is a habit all the time. Stop playing defense. Stop apologizing. For what he was saying is so true about this movement. Is a movement of people who want to tear down good and excellent and builders. I just recently wrote an article on the Federalist talking about that socialism, which is what he's talking about, is the movement of the lazy, of the jealous, and of losers. And we, as everyday Americans, we have to start using those terms to describe these people, because that's exactly what they are. And so I love seeing that coalition that he's pointing out, that he's pulling together, but I more so love seeing that offensive mindset to say, we're not going to just sit here and play defense and only react when something happens, because they are homegrown in each of our countries, and it starts at your kindergarten level.
Well, Alvin Lui, President, Courage is a Habit. Very great to have you this evening. Thank you for joining.
Great to see you.